Welcome back to our episode. We're doing one after a long time. It was a much needed winter break for me. I went and visited family and friends and saw a team in person in Calcutta. And then while I was doing that, Chelsea went from title contenders to can we get like top six, top seven? Right. I think there was a lot of hullabaloo about Chelsea being resurgent and trying to win or compete with Liverpool for the trophy, but everybody inside and outside Chelsea kept kind of saying that hey, we are not title contenders, and basically we're seeing why, right? So currently Chelsea stand at sixth position, right? They've fallen from second to sixth. We are on 40 points, level on points with Bournemouth, who are resurgent with Iraola, right? And to be honest with you, if Chelsea play Bournemouth tomorrow, I expect Bournemouth to win pretty easily. So, sixth, seventh, it's looking, a little difficult right now. Top four is looking difficult because City are resurgent and Newcastle are back. So we'll talk about, Chelsea's kind of downfall and some of the gaps and deficiencies that Chelsea have had that is basically going to prevent us from being serious contenders, right? So, Adim, what do you think about Chelsea's downfall?
I think it. So I'm surprised that actually came because we were waxing lyrical about Enzo Maresca being this genius and how he was exceeding the expectations. I'm not going to play that down. But I did not expect Chelsea to. I wouldn't say fall down, but struggle so much to beat some of the sides. The Ipswich loss was a bit shocker. Because you didn't think
Mhm.
that they would lose, and then the same thing to Fulham, right? I mean, you don't expect Chelsea to lose those games, especially when they were in decent form. And it just continued. So you lost to Fulham, you lost to Ipswich, you drew to Crystal Palace, and then obviously the
Yep,
Bournemouth. So
and Bournemouth.
Bournemouth I won't count because Bournemouth is a tough fixture. I
Mhm.
mean, it's like an Arsenal fixture now. I don't know what form they're in, but they're really good. So I find it a little surprising, and I don't know if it plays to what you had said earlier, is that Maresca doesn't make enough changes in the side, and he sticks to the same 11, and they play, I think, till 75, 80 minutes. So does that actually play a role in that? Because I don't know
So
what's going on.
Maresca definitely has to take some blame, right? He's the coach, but let's talk about some deficiencies that have existed at Chelsea even before, right? Some of the cracks that were kind of being papered over, right? So Chelsea have kind of reverted back to their finishing standards. So Chelsea can't finish any chances anymore. We still do create a good amount of chances, but Nicholas Jackson, I think, hasn't scored in the last 6 or 7 games, or maybe even more than that. Although he's created a couple of good opportunities, but his finishing, has kind of reverted back to the mean. He's never been a really good finisher. Last season, we saw that he missed a lot of chances. And without Nicholas Jackson contributing goals, our number of goals scored has just gone down because Cole Palmer has been a little injured. His form has been a little iffy. And then I think the last game, Noni Madueke scored, but we haven't had any major contributions in the scoring sense of things, right? Now coming to the midfield part of it, right? Our midfield is looking very thin, right? Caicedo and Enzo are playing match after match. Lavia keeps getting injured. He's had a very checkered injury record. So he plays like 60 minutes in one game and then he's out for the next month, right? And that's where I have an issue with the sporting directors, right? You knew that Lavia was such an injury prone player. Why don't we have any backups, right? And with Enzo and Caicedo, both of them don't have that physicality that's needed to survive in the Premier League. I'll give you a prime example in the match against Man City, the third goal that we conceded, right? It was a header that was contested header that was won by Kevin De Bruyne, I think, against Malo Gusto in the center of the field. That gave the ball to Haaland, who out wrestled Coville, and then Foden made a run and he scored a goal. So we lack physicality in an important part of the field, which is midfield, and that kind of gets compounded. Let's talk about the defense now, right? The defense has been the most embarrassing, I would say. Right, the
More,
biggest embarrassment has been the
more,
U-turn that Chelsea
no, no,
made on
more
Trevor Chalobah.
embarrassing.
Yeah.
No, no, more embarrassing than Sanchez.
Yes, I mean Sanchez. Okay, mistakes happen, right? I'm talking about more, the entire setup, the sporting directors, the squad planning perspective, right? People make mistakes. We'll come to Sanchez for sure, but in the defense, right? What's happened now is Wesley Fofana, who's a critical cog in the defensive side of things because he's an aggressive defender, he's a strong defender. He's again injured long term, right? Because he's had injury problems again, the same thing as Romeo Lavia. Now, once he gets injured, we don't really have a front foot aggressive defender anymore. Tosin he's kind of iffy, he's okay. And then we had Disasi, right? And the game Disasi played against Ipswich was an absolute disaster. One of his back passes led to a goal, and he's just not suited to playing this system. But guess who was more suited to playing Maresca's system in defense? It was Trevor Chalobah, right?
Chalaba.
But because of some weird, PSR rules combined with I don't know what kind of squad politics is going on and what's going on in the heads of the sporting directors, Trevor Chalobah was banished from the first team, training and everything in the summer with the hopes of, selling him and making pure profit, balancing the books, right? Eventually, there wasn't a buyer, so he went to Crystal Palace, and now he's been called back. And he's been called back, not only called back, but he gets into the starting 11 immediately, right? If I was Trevor Chalobah, I would be so mad and so angry. But props to Trevor Chalobah, Chelsea through and through. He's, come back and he's playing. And he played, and he had a man of the match role in Wolves, right? But that instant itself proves to you how mismanaged this entire team is. And, just chasing this PSR and pure profit has basically destroyed, Chelsea's squad building in the last year or so. Coming to the goalkeeping situation now, I mean, it is kind of embarrassing because we have like 6 or 7 goalkeeping people signed up to Chelsea. Remember Kepa Arrizabalaga is at Chelsea still. We have Mike Penders, who's a new guy who's supposed to be a prodigy somewhere. We have folks who are playing for Strasbourg now. Last season they were playing for us. It's just crazy, but. Our starting goalkeeper is still Robert Sanchez, right? And he keeps making these big mistakes every game, keeps costing us 1 goal per game. And the interesting or the sad part is we knew that this is Robert Sanchez's game, right? He has a mistake in him.
Right.
And it hasn't changed for the last 5-6 years. Still, we went out and bought him. Still, we basically made him our starting goalkeeper. So basically, there's something that's going wrong, right? We are looking at the wrong metric. So Sanchez does make some good saves from time to time, right? He does, pull off a pretty good save, and he's got a good wingspan and all of those things. But those things don't matter if you're making like calamitous mistakes every game. So that our entire spine is basically weak right now. We have Jackson as a center forward who's good, but he's not good at finishing and he's not good at heading. Those are 2 like critical skills for center forward. Our midfield lacks physicality and it lacks cover. If Enzo and Caicedo, it's only a matter of time. Enzo and Caicedo, one of them will get a bad injury, right? Because they keep playing. And the other thing is they're both from South America. Once the World Cup qualifiers start again, they have to make this trip, the long trip to South America and back. Our defense, we don't have any cover for Wesley Fofana. Trevor Chalobah has come back, but still he's not the ideal person. And then the goalkeeping situation, everybody knows. So these problems existed before. We were doing well at the start of the season, but I don't see us hitting those heights again. Because a very concerning thing that's happening in all the matches is we are playing decent football, at least, for the first 30, 45 minutes. Sometimes we're even taking the lead. But in the second half of games, we are tanking. Like physically, mentally, we're tanking. So even if we take the lead, which we did against City, we know that eventually the opposition will come back, they'll equalize. And they can also win because physically we are also declining. Lots of things to be addressed. I really hope that these sporting directors stop hoarding these young players and selling them off for profit just to balance the books. You have to focus on the first 11, which Chelsea hasn't, right? A lot of incomings and outgoings expected in the next few days till the end of the transfer market because
What a surprise.
we got Joao Felix, who doesn't get any game time. He's wanted by Aston Villa. We have Nkunku, who doesn't get any game time because, the system doesn't suit him. Palmer plays as the only 10. He needs to go somewhere. Chelsea need to try to get, some sort of attacking talent, especially a center forward and maybe some midfield reinforcements. Who knows? The only good thing for Chelsea is right now some of our loan players are doing pretty well. It's kind of funny. Andre Santos, who's a midfielder, Brazilian midfielder, prodigious midfielder, is doing really well at Strasbourg, right? He's, I think, the highest scoring central midfielder across Europe. He scored 7 goals. Hopefully, we'll have him back next season, but not this season. And so that's the only thing we can look forward to. And to be honest with you, we have some tough games coming up. Brighton West Ham is going to be tough, actually. And West Ham, Graham Potter, who's now in charge of West Ham, he's got a point to prove. Of course, we face West Ham on Monday. It's not going to be an easy game. We have Brighton, Aston Villa. Then we have a couple of decent games, Southampton, Leicester. But then we have Arsenal, Tottenham, Brentford. Right,
Yikes.
tough fixtures. Yeah, tough fixtures coming. And that's really going to expose some of the deficiencies in the squad. And now let's talk about the coach, right? I've talked about this. Maresca system is not easy, right? He inverts one of the, fullbacks, and the other fullback joins the center backs, which makes things very complicated. Puts a lot of pressure on the wingers to track back. And one of the goals we conceded against City was Madueke, not holding the offside line and letting Guardiola be onside, which, you probably can blame him, but he's also a winger, right? He's not a defensive player. Uh, so that's an issue with the Maresca system, right? It's a complicated system where you're taking away the strengths of players and putting them in situations that they are not used to, right? You're asking wingers to defend a lot. You're asking, fullbacks who are good at crossing, who are good at overlapping, to not do that, to get into central positions. One of the most frustrating things has been Malo Gusto and Cucurella, playing like number 8 and number 10 roles sometimes, right? You're basically not setting them up for success. It sounds very basic, right? But your squad and your team and your tactics have to match your player skill sets, right? If you're going to try to shoehorn players in, it's not really going to work. But either ways, I think, Maresca will need to deserve some more time. The squad has some holes, but I do have doubts of whether his system of inverting fullbacks and playing this complicated system can work, especially because the main reason is it doesn't empower the players to showcase their best skills. It basically asks them to do things that they're not good at. So that's basically where Chelsea is at. Uh, we expected to see a lot of movement in the squad, exactly opposite of
Opposite.
Liverpool. So that's why being in in my shoes, I do see the point of having measured, a well thought out transfer policy, which Liverpool has. Maybe Liverpool does a little bit too much of that, but at least it's not the absolute mayhem and chaos. And right now the other problem is Chelsea will not be able to sign young players or good players anymore because everybody's seeing what's going on at
Yeah.
Chelsea, right? All
Yeah.
these, like, we bought Kieran Dewsbury Hall, and there are talks of trying to sell him. Like, why did you buy him in the summer, right? And it's very obvious you sold Gallagher to Atletico Madrid to balance your books. You've gotten Joao Felix, who hasn't started at all in the Premier League. So you basically given away one of your starting, tenacious, hardworking, homegrown midfielders just to balance books and get somebody over the line, which doesn't make any sense. So things don't bode very well for Chelsea. Let's see what happens. But things definitely need to change at multiple levels.
Yeah. So
That's my rant.
yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot to take up. So you see a lot of people going out right from the first team also because if Maresca is the man who's going to play his certain system, then he needs the players who fit that system. So you see people like Cucurella being sold. Like, is it a possibility? Because I know you guys were linked with Garnacho, I think,
Kukure,
for some reason, with the
yeah, Kukure is
Nkunku.
not going to be sold. Yeah, Garnacho, yes. Don't get me
It's
started on
weird.
Garnacho. Kukure can't be sold because, he's one of the players who's performing at a decent level. And the other problem is the other backup left back that we had gotten, Renato Vega, he's been loaned off to
Yeah.
Juventus, right? He was not getting enough game time and he got pissed off and he's left, right? He was supposed to be, this Swiss Army knife of a player who can play left back, who can play left center
Midfield.
back, who can
Yeah.
play in the midfield and all that nonsense. And we basically have Kukurea. We also have Chilwell, who's on like 220,000 pounds a week, who's just not part of the setup, which is like super, super weird. You're paying somebody, right? You don't have any options. Try and integrate him into the team, make the best use of whatever resources you have, but they're not doing that. So there are players who will definitely leave. One of Nkunku and Felix will definitely leave. Kieran Dewsbury Hall might leave. Another young, good player who I'd expected to excel this season, Carney Chukwuemeka, not gotten any opportunities at all. I don't know why. It's probably down to some, squad politics, behavioral, I don't know what issues, right? He's expected to leave. And then we definitely need reinforcements, right? Because Modric, we all know he's probably gone for the next 3, 4 years, right? The second sample, the dreaded second sample, is probably going to be positive, and he's probably going to get at least a 2 to 3 year sentence. So we need a winger, we need a center forward who can score goals, right? And then we'll see what happens.
Yikes. A lot of things that need to happen at Chelsea again. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with them. We're back now, so that's good. We'll keep talking. We'll see what happens in the weekend's fixtures. And we'll see you guys next time. Take care and bye bye.
Bye bye.